Live stream. This is always the hokey part where I feel 1,000 years old, like my grandma's doing this. Uh, oh, okay, we are live. Okay, ready, Dan?
Yep.
All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Captain's Quarters, the unofficial Star Trek rewatch podcast, where we are rewatching the entire Star Trek franchise starting at the beginning of the official chronology. We've gone all the way through Star Trek Enterprise, and now we've gone through season one of Star Trek Discovery, and we're talking today about the Star Trek Discovery season one finale. And my name's Gabe. I'm with my co-captain Jason, and we've got a special episode because we have a guest host, Dan Leckie. Hello, Dan.
Hi.
How's it going?
I'm fine, thanks. I'm happy tracking.
Yeah. Dan, why don't you tell us about yourself? Tell us about your website and anything else that you're involved with in the community so people know who you are and where to find you.
Cool, thanks. So I'm the editor of warfactortrack.com. That's basically I run it like I'm a musician as well, so I run it like almost like that. Like anyone can contribute to the website if they would like to. And we've had a lot of writers that have actually worked on the show. Like Lisa Klink was a writer in Star Trek Voyager, for example, and has written some articles. That's one example, but there are quite a few writers who've written for the website as well as worked on Star Trek. I'm also coordinating a YouTube channel called Subspace Chatter. We've been discussing like each of the uh, six original series Star Trek movies. Currently, we just had last week we spoke with Nicholas Meyer about Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, who's the director in The Wrath of Khan. Um, and so we're discussing each of those six movies, and then we'll be discussing season 5 of Discovery because that'll start next month.
Awesome.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Nicholas Meyer, wow.
Yeah. Sometime I'll have to pick your brain on how to find these guests that you the interview and stuff, because I think that's something we'd be
That's
interested
pretty
in for
cool.
sure. Yeah.
And then I kind of wanted to I wanted to ask, how did was there an episode that you remember that got you in to the Trek universe?
Yeah, my first episode that I watched was like a Romulan episode. It was called the the Defector. It was written by Ron D. Moore for the Next Generation. I really like his writing. And he went on to like did the reboot of Battlestar Galactica and different projects. I forgot to mention also when you're talking about interviews, I recently begun writing interview articles for the official Star Trek magazine, Star Trek Explorer, but no articles that I've so far written have yet been published. That'll start in August this year.
No way. That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
Is that something someone can like subscribe to and get like a print of? Is that how that works?
So I think it's published in 4 different countries. I know it definitely is published in like the USA and the UK.
Man.
I did not know that magazine was still around. That's awesome, though. That's really awesome.
Seriously.
Yeah, no, that's really awesome.
So it's existed under several names. Like it used to be called Star Trek Monthly, and it was just a UK only publication. That's how it started, and then it got like renamed to Star Trek Magazine for a long time, and then like quite recently, I think there's what 10 or 11, something like that. Yeah, I think 10 issues where it's been Star Trek Explorer. So my first article will appear in issue 12 in August. It's published quarterly.
we'll have to look out for that for sure.
Yeah, I'll definitely be buying that.
Definitely want. And is it still in print or is it online?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
in
it's
print.
still.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Okay.
And are you a lifelong Star Trek fan?
Yeah, when I remember being a kid and like my family got a VHS player and like there was a VHS tape left in the machine. Um, and I started playing it like I was like, what the heck is this? And then like so some like white noise and static came on, and then it started playing like the Next Generation episode. I'm like, wow, this is so good.
And you mentioned the episode that got you into it is the Defector, and that's a Next Generation episode, if
Yeah,
I'm not mistaken.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Uh,
I assume a Romulan defector.
yeah. And Dan, you're gonna have to. Is that the Romulan the Vulcan ambassador one, or is that the one where it's season probably 6 or 7? It's later, and Troy has been kidnapped by the Romulans as a.
No, that's Face of the Enemy you're thinking of.
Yeah, that's Face of the Enemy. So which one is defective?
Yeah, the one I think you were originally thinking of.
Oh, okay. Oh, that is a really good episode. That is a really good episode.
Nice. Okay. I'm looking forward to that for sure.
We've got a while.
Yeah. Okay. So people give your URL again so that people know exactly where to find your work.
And then we'll drop it in the
Yeah, for sure.
description box and stuff.
Warfactortrack.com.
Okay. And then your YouTube channel, you said Subspace
Yeah, Subspace Chatter.
Chatter. Sweet.
Yeah.
And that's you started that already? The Subspace Chatter YouTube?
Yeah, so, I actually started this YouTube channel, the Scotch Tracker. That's what it's called. And then like I realized like other people were interested in talking about Trek on that. So like sort of to give it like a less like personalized name or whatever, and more, group name, than it was renamed to Subspace Chatter.
And what's your and since we're talking about it, what's your favorite of the 6 originals?
Oh, it's a good question. I think Star Trek 6 on Undiscovered Country. Like that was my first. That was the first film I saw. The first Star Trek film I saw at the cinema, the movie theater. Yeah.
Not a bad one to start off with. Not a bad one to start off with. That's awesome.
Very cool. Well, shall we talk about the season finale of season 1 of Star Trek Discovery?
Yeah.
All right.
That'll be
cool. Keep me honest here. Okay. Yeah. So there's an ongoing war with the Klingons between Starfleet and the Klingons. The Klingons have brought the war to our front door. They're about to attack Earth. There's Klingon warships that are positioned ready to destroy Earth. Discovery hatches a plan to use their spore warp thing to go to the Klingon homeworld. Kronos. Not spelled phonetically.
No.
So I struggle with that. They're going to go into kind of like the mantle of Kronos, and their plan is to map it so that they can attack it. So Stamets uses his spore drive abilities to warp into Kronos, into like a cavity, and Burnham believes, and everybody believes, that they're going to launch a drone into the core to map things out, but really so Philippa is the Terran Mirror Universe version of Philippa. Her and Starfleet know the real plan, which is they're going to basically blow it up like the Death Star. They're going to put a bomb into the core and blow up Kronos. Burnham and crew discover this, and Burnham has a she basically, even though her family was killed by Klingons, this is like a total war. She says genocide is bad, basically does a mutiny, rallies the troops on Discovery, and instead stops Philippa's plan, and also, like, they keep the bomb there and they give it to
The detonator.
the detonator. Give it to
L'Rell, yeah.
The Klingon L'Rell, and say, Klingons respond to strength. So instead of blowing it up, let's not commit genocide. We will give it to L'Rell. We'll free L'Rell from the brig. She will then use the detonator to basically, I don't know, hold the Klingons hostage.
Yeah, I mean, basically unite the 24 houses together.
Yeah.
And would everyone agree? If I go too far, let me know. But does she become the first Klingon female chancellor? And fun fact, just because we were talking about Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, we saw the second in canon female chancellor in Azet Bur, but not too many spoilers.
You know what? For everybody's sake, don't worry about spoiling me. That's fine. Even though I haven't seen these things, normally Jason holds back on the spoilers, but in this forum, I think it's okay.
Okay, cool.
So L'Rell is going to become the chancellor. I thought she was the empress, but it's chancellor.
I mean, at this time, who knows?
Yeah, who knows? So she basically says, make me the chancellor or else. The Klingons, responding to strength, I guess, agree. And then she directs those Klingons who are going to attack Earth to not attack Earth. Philippa's like, whatever, and leaves. I think we're going to follow her story with this Section 31 thing that was announced, this TV movie. And so Burnham's not stepfather, but her adoptive father, the Vulcan, who is also Spock's father, Sarek, says, I was part of this plan, but you picked the right choice here. So commendations all around for Burnham and the whole Discovery crew. There's a ceremony at the end where there's like a monologue over it where Burnham says that the war is over, quote unquote, which I don't think is probably technically true, but at this moment in time, it's over. The war has been stopped. Burnham is promoted to commander.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you what that means in a second.
Okay.
Tilly gets to go to the academy, the leadership academy. Yeah. Commendations all around. Burnham's love interest, Tyler, goes with Philippa.
Right? No, with L'Rell.
With L'Rell.
Yeah.
As a Klingon.
Yeah. Hopefully, who knows, but probably hopefully a liaison of some sort. Kind of a bridge, hopefully.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So Burnham basically single-handedly stops this total destruction of Kronos, which might not have even worked. I mean, if she had destroyed Kronos, these Klingon ships still could have destroyed Earth.
It's possible.
Yeah. And so they're on Discovery. They do say that they're on their way to Vulcan to get a new captain, which they don't say who it is.
No.
So I feel like maybe that's a spoiler. And again, I haven't seen season 2. So for all I know, it's Spock or something.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in the end, they do. Well, you're gonna get to it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, okay. So yeah, they're on the way to Vulcan. They get a distress call. They come out of warp, and it's a little fuzzy, the signal, and the way they show it on the screen. It's like NCC 17s, and then turns out it's the Enterprise and Captain Pike.
Yeah.
And that's how the episode ends. And so that was the episode. That was my super concise recap of the episode, and we can talk about it now.
Yeah, Dan. Yeah, Dan, kick us off. Thoughts, reactions.
yeah, I really like the recap of regarding the episode. I made so many notes, probably too many to go through.
Yeah, well, so um I mean, I like this episode. I thought it did a good job of, like, Burnham's thing from the beginning was, because she was raised by Vulcans, is hyper logic, but this was purely a compassionate move on her part. Maybe not necessarily the most logical one, because even Sarek apparently had determined the logical move is,
Yeah.
We're about to die, might as well kill them all.
Yeah.
But she brought in a level of compassion that even Sarek adopted.
Yeah.
And that was not necessarily the most Vulcan thing. And that I really enjoyed that arc of Burnham, her sort of like, you know, what is that? Like kind of like Wizard of Oz things, like she grows a heart, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I don't know.
Exactly. I let me just chime in here for just a second, but as you were talking, that's totally that's what that's what I complain about a lot in modern storytelling, is that, and maybe this is too European, but you know, but I have that same thing where it's like, okay, hey, this is a character arc, right?
Yeah.
In season 1, episode 1, it was her jumping to the forefront and mutinying, and this, and you can see that full character arc where she comes back and says, no, I need the crew.
Yeah.
I have the thing, I have this sense of, there's this character arc, this growth that we see, and she kind of steps back and she comes to a very different conclusion this time.
Sure.
And then the other thing that I wanted to touch on is that, yeah, maybe it wasn't the most logical, but there's a scene in my favorite Star Trek film, the original Star Trek film, between Kirk and Spock, where Kirk asks, is this the logical thing to do? And Spock responds, no, but it's the human thing to do. And that's all. And that, that right there kind of encapsulates what Burnham was doing.
Mm-hmm. I thought I've watched this episode a few times. I watched it earlier today, and noticed something that I hadn't noticed before, which was, it seems like to me like Burnham goes through even like a character arc within just this episode, where she sees like Laurel basically beating up no, sorry, Giorgio beating up Laurel, and he's like, well, by resorting to brute force, you already lose. So then she applies that like realization later on to how Starfleet is, planning, like what Starfleet is planning for Kronos.
Yeah, and she was such a rule follower. Everything is by protocol, and there's nothing antithetical to protocol more than mutiny.
Yeah. And I kind of want to build off what Dan was saying, and that I think there was and I think it's lost even today. And I'm not going to, mention any specifics or anything, but there's a scene in the episode where Burnham is looking around in the streets of Kronos, and she's just seeing ordinary Klingon life.
Sure.
And to me, I thought that was incredibly poignant, that that there's a separation between, as what you were saying too, and what you were saying, in that there's a difference between Klingon leadership and how they act and what they do and the atrocities they perform and they command and commit to, that, and it's different from the people, right? The people don't always have that same drive, that same hatred. It's not always the people of ordinary Klingon daily life on Kronos that it's like, no, they're just going on with their daily lives.
Yeah.
And they have their lives, to think about, and that she could separate that. And I think that was really cool, and I wish that would, apply more to these days, in these times.
I thought they kind of went out of their way to do that, because when they were on Kronos, I was surprised to see non-Klingons there.
Yeah, Dan, was that something like Orions, like a section of Kronos that have Orions. I'm like, really? They'd allow Orions to kind of freely? Yeah, that was weird to me.
Isn't it supposed to be like an Orion colony place?
Yeah, yeah.
I was thinking how like you mentioned Laurel and the question of like whether she's the first female chancellor.
Oh, yeah.
And like I remember for when I worked on Memory Alpha, the encyclopedic Star Trek website. I was an admin there for 6 years and wrote like really extensively about like behind the scenes stuff and researched really quite deeply into the Klingons. Wrote this really long. There's a really long article on Memory Alpha that most of it's been written by myself, called "Depicting Klingons," and found out like during the course of that study that like Ron D. Moore, who I mentioned earlier, who wrote the first episodes that I ever saw, included in the Next Generation a line that said that the Klingons don't have on the Klingon High Council, they don't have females serving on the High Council, which later on he regretted having written it and then changed it for when he was working on Deep Space Nine.
Interesting. And because so my only exposure to Kronos or Klingon culture is from Enterprise, and certainly anytime Captain Archer.
And when you were a kid, when you watched Star Trek: The Next Generation.
That's true, but I don't remember.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember Worf, but I don't remember any other Klingons besides him. But I mean, when Captain Archer would go in front of the council and stuff, it was very male dominated, but certainly inclusive to Klingons, and nothing even remotely that would indicate that they were like accepting of other races or other species.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I like that though, because you're right though, it gave the sense of like, oh, this is like a society, and just because perhaps people at the top are one way doesn't necessarily condemn everybody.
Exactly.
Burnham realized that, and she's like, I'm not going to kill all these people.
Exactly.
And then even more so, they had the moment of her recounting of when her parents were killed, and it was very detailed and graphic of they were like on vacation, and the Klingons came and they were hiding in the kitchen, and Burnham was literally hiding in a cupboard, and the Klingons killed her parents, but then like sat down at their dinner table and ate their dinner, and she could hear them laughing and talking, and she had every reason to be full of revenge and hate and of anyone really. She had more of a reason to want to just obliterate them, but she chose the right thing to do. And I don't know, Jason and I occasionally will talk about what makes Star Trek, and particularly for me as like kind of an outsider, I'm still growing my Trekkiness. Some of those things aren't always because I know Star Wars pretty well. I feel like I can say what Star Wars is, but like, what is Star Trek? And I think this episode does a really good job of encapsulating it. It's like doing the right thing, and not taking shortcuts to compromise the right thing, even though it's like the hard thing to do. It's the right thing to do. And like talking about it and thinking about it and like reaching the conclusion of like, this is what we should do. And I don't know.
Yeah, because like the last time, I just want to say, like the last episode, again, the writers and the producers took us and said, okay, we're going to stretch fans. We're going to take them to a point where it's like, really, we're going to blow up the Klingon homeworld? That's what we're relying on. And then finally, okay, we'll bring it back. And it's Burnham and the disco crew.
Regarding like stretching Star Trek fans' believability and stuff, I thought it was like pretty cool. Like they had, they've got the Terran Emperor in command of Discovery.
That's it. Yeah, exactly.
What could be less Star Trek than that?
Right? Yeah, right. Exactly.
I did enjoy, because only certain people on Disco knew that Philippa was Terran Philippa. I did enjoy that scene where Tilly meets her and is like, oh my gosh, I've heard so much about
Yeah.
you. Like she's like kind of fangirling
Yeah,
out.
yeah,
And then like Philippa says like one sentence, she goes, "Oh, you're the
yeah,
third
yeah,
one."
yeah,
She
yeah,
immediately
yeah,
figures it
yeah,
out
yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
she just stood out so much.
Yeah. And for TNG fans, correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, but Mintaka 3, and she mentions another planet, and like in their conquest in the Terran universe. I think that was a throwback to kind of two planets that were from Next Gen, if I'm not mistaken. Mintaka 3, and I think there was another one. I can't remember the other planet, but for some reason that kind of stuck out to me being another Star Trek The Next Gen reference.
Yeah, I can't remember what the second one was either. But yeah, I'm guessing you know where Mitaka's 3 is from.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, the Next Generation episode called "Who Watches the Watchers" that features Mintaka.
Oh, okay.
I have a barking dog.
Sorry, yeah. Sorry, distract. Yeah. So, Dan, I kind of wanted to. So, I wanted to kind of go back to Ron D. Moore, and it was Gowron who said that, right? Women may not be allowed to serve on the council. Is that correct? Is that?
I think so.
Was that?
Yeah,
Am I quoting that correctly?
you seem to be quoting it correctly.
Wow.
So regarding, I noticed that even, like there's that saying, an isik for your thoughts.
Yes.
So this episode, Amanda Grayson says it's just something her mother said. But earlier in Discovery, like in basically the first Mirror Universe episode, there was an episode called "Despite Yourself,"
Yeah.
where they just arrived in the Mirror Universe, and there it's referred to as a Vulcan saying. So what do you think is more believable, and do you know what maybe there's a difference?
Wow, that's a really good question. Yeah, I have a tendency to believe that was yeah, I do have a tendency to believe that that's a Vulcan expression or a Vulcan saying. Um and to kind of um to kind of resolve, or not resolve, but like kind of what's the word I'm looking for? I think they may have just either made a mistake, or that there are so many differences of interpretation of that expression that I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know where that I come down from that, but I do have to believe that that's much more of a Vulcan expression,
That's interesting.
because it kind of falls along the lines of like, there's an old Vulcan proverb that only Nixon could go to China, or something else that Spock has said, that it kind of just feels more in line with Vulcan proverbs and Vulcan expression. But what do you think?
I agree. Like we don't have, like I haven't heard of the term "isik." They're not even like Michael Burnham and I think Tyler. Is that right?
Yeah.
Like they're not familiar with it, So I think it's less likely to have originated in like human culture.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask. So that phrase has not been established previously in other Star Trek?
I don't think so.
Well, actually, I looked briefly at the Memory Alpha article about ISIC, and it does say like it's mentioned or something in Deep Space Nine.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
See, I was waiting it to be like the IDIC or IDIC. I thought it was going to be an acronym, right? Is
Yeah.
that a Vulcan thing?
Yes.
Riddick?
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, I noticed like this is the second of two Star Trek Discovery episodes that was directed by Akiva Goldsman. He directed like the first one that the USS Discovery appears in. Context is for Kings, and he's like gone on to develop Strange New Worlds that I believe like features Pike and Enterprise.
Yeah. Yeah. And he played an important role in the development of Picard, right? Star Trek Picard.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he was like co-showrunner with. Well, basically, he was showrunner for the second season of Picard.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, that's
Wow. Okay. I like that.
yeah.
That's one thing we appreciate on this show is when they keep that continuity of like, people who have directed other Star Trek stuff. Because I think when we first started this series, we were worried that this was like a brand new thing
Yeah.
with no connection to the other stuff. Like when we saw the Klingons looking so different, we were like, but stuff like that, I like that a lot.
Yeah. And again,
Sorry.
no, go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, I think the most you mentioned the Klingons again. I think like the most controversial aspect of this entire episode is where they're walking through the streets on Cronus and stuff like that, and there's a Klingon against the wall, and he's got two urine streams, and with the intention was to establish that the Klingons had two penises.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Which I want to dovetail off that. This is the first time we've seen, I think, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the first time we've ever seen anyone peeing in a Star Trek episode.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And there are many firsts in this series.
There was a lot of little questions like that came up for me. So was that a brand new thing? The two
right, Dan? To me.
Yeah, it is. But also like before this, like they had been established as having like redundant organs. So they've got like,
right.
more than humans do.
Dan, I have to know, what is your opinion of the reimagining of the aesthetic of Klingons? Do you approve? Do you hate it? Do you not care?
I really like it. I know
You
that I'm probably going to get killed because of that opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah, I found like the original series that basically the Klingons look very human-like, and then like they did Enterprise where they look a lot more alien, like but then in the fourth season of Enterprise they did like the Affliction and Divergence two-parter where it sort of explains that, and then like the final scene of that two-parter, like Antak says something like about the probably, or no, actually I think it's Phlox to Antak that says I think forehead remodeling or whatever will be in vogue, they think. So I thought it's interesting going ahead to Discovery, and like you do see like variations in how they look a lot more, where they're like experimenting and stuff and trying to get over the virus that they've been ravaged by, basically. Yeah.
So, does it create any continuity issues that you're concerned with their appearance?
Not really, no. Like Worf's appearance, like during when Worf's appeared, like through the 7 seasons of The Next Generation and 4 Star Trek: The Next Generation feature films, like his appearance alone has like really changed a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
So Dan, have you? So I take that you've watched Strange New Worlds.
Yeah.
So they're. I'm not going to disagree. I don't disagree with you, but I am, and my questions always come out of a place of curiosity. Do you wonder how they're going to reconcile how those Klingons looked when, I think it's season 1 or 2 season finale where Spock, meets this group of Klingons, and again, they're your run-of-the-mill Next Generation, more looking like, Deep Space Nine, kind of ridged, hair kind of looking Klingons. I mean, you've probably seen more of the Discovery, and so do they explain that, or do they like there is a thing that they again decided to make Klingons look like, again, run of the mill, Next Generation in Strange New Worlds. That's my guess, but I have no idea. So I'm just curious where you come down on that. I'm like,
the Klingons appear in the second season.
Second season. Thank you.
Yeah.
How do you reconcile that in your mind, or have they explained that again?
I thought it was like you see like Michael Westmore, who did the makeup and did for a lot of years on Star Trek, and makeup for like the Trill species, which changed a heck of a lot.
Oh yeah,
between the very first appearance and then from then on, basically.
That's true.
And he accounted for it like by saying like they're northern and southern Trill, and that's just one planet. If you have like
interesting.
Empire is an entire empire. It's not just one planet, and if there's so much radical differences just between like one planet, or what we think of as radical differences at least regarding the Trill, then like there, the Klingon Empire is so huge,
right?
Of course, you're going to get like variances and differences if it's realistic.
I'll go with that. Yeah, I'll go with that.
Yeah,
I'll go with that.
Meaning though, because like for me, I've only seen this season 1. We've only seen the one type, but that means like because there's 24 houses.
Yeah, when you see like the start of Discovery, I didn't really like that. When the 24 houses, representatives from the 24 houses appear, and they basically all look the same as each other. I didn't particularly like that.
Yeah. But I'll go with that now. Yeah, sure.
Because there's probably millions of them or billions of
them.
Yeah,
probably.
So we're not seeing all of them.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, so I don't know anything about Strange New Worlds. Is that Pike?
Yeah.
So when Enterprise comes at the end of this one, is that kind of like the tie-in with this other series that
it became? Yeah, it became it. He became Anson Mount and Rebecca Romaine. They did correct me if I'm wrong again, but they did such a great job at portraying those characters that they were like, yes, we are going to tell the Pike story.
Got it.
But Goldsman thought they were basically doing that, and was really interested in putting that show in the works, and so he got his wish.
Okay. So their performance just accelerate, just like kind of compounded that and said, okay, yes, we are. Yes.
That was one question for you, actually, was wondered whether you've watched The Cage.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
What's that?
It is the pilot episode of the original series.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So NBC said, we're going to give you the green light, Gene Roddenberry, to write a pilot. He did. It didn't go over so well with folks.
Okay.
It got scrapped. NBC gave him a second chance, hence the recast with William Shatner. Although Spock is the only character that survived.
But it was shot, produced, and it exists.
It exists. Oh yeah. No, yeah. I think, to me, it's, and I'm curious because you asked the question. What did you like? Do you like the Cage? Are you a fan? Not a fan? I know it's a divisive episode. Okay, great. I'm with him. I love the Cage. I love the Cage.
Is it Kirk or is it Pike?
No, it's Pike.
Okay,
Yeah.
I got it.
So for ages, like that was the only episode that Pike was in, because that was a pilot, that didn't go to series, but they were given another chance, so they did like 2 pilots. It was like basically unprecedented at that time. That's when they brought in Kirk, and they did a pilot episode with Kirk. So,
Yeah.
like, the series, like Strange New Worlds, was commissioned as a series so many years after The Cage.
Yeah.
Like one of the longest stretches between pilot and series like there's ever been.
Yeah. And then they did a fun episode in the original series called The Menagerie, where we get, it's kind of like one of those episodes where it's like a flashback episode, and they just reuse old scenes from episodes, right?
Okay.
And it's like, I know it's popular in a lot of sitcoms where it's like, oh, they'll do a flashback and it's just old episodes. So that was kind of The Menagerie, where we learn of Pike's fate that weighs on him in Strange New Worlds.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I hate when I watch Friends a lot, as Jason knows and makes fun of me for it.
Make fun of you. Friends.
Those are always the episodes that skip.
Yeah, no.
It's like, well, I just watched that. I don't need to watch this again, but okay. All right. Well,
anything else that stuck out to you in this episode?
Yeah, like one of the first shots, like you see this massive like space station, space dock in orbit.
Yeah.
That figures into later continuity is quite important.
It's an issue.
No. It what he's saying is that it's the first shot of space dock that we see later on, not until the movies. Star Trek 3?
Yeah, the Search for Spock.
Yeah, Search for Spock is when we first see the space dock completed, but we see that initially, and it's the first time we see Earth in Discovery, and probably I want to say even going back to Enterprise, I don't think we see a space shot of Earth.
I mean, maybe when Archer goes down, he's recruiting at the beginning. He is recruiting people on Earth, like the translator is in Brazil.
Oh, right. Sato. Yeah, maybe. Okay. Oh, and Dan, and speaking of the cage, there was a shot that reminiscent for me of the original coming into the bridge, the Enterprise, kind of the camera panning down into the dome of the bridge of the Enterprise, and we kind of get that shot in this episode too. Yes, or
that was cool.
Completely okay, cool. All right, cool. Because there are times where I'm like, that reminds me of something that happened before, and it's reminiscence. Yeah.
And then also, like, Michael Burnham makes a speech at Federation headquarters.
Yes.
And there's like loads of it looks like cadets are there, perhaps. Wearing a blue Starfleet uniform.
Yeah.
And blue uniform shirts, and those were originally designed like behind the scenes, like they intended to make those originally the main uniform that the Discovery crew would wear.
Oh, that would have been cool.
So that was just they didn't go with that idea, but they managed to make use of them. And in this episode, I always think it's great, like that they, even though they were left over from like the conception of the series, that they were still able to, make use of them.
See, Dan, that aesthetically to me would have been a better choice than the one, because then they're going to have to explain like how Pike's uniform is going to more like your run-of-the-mill original series uniforms, and how Discovery. Yeah, I'm still having issues. I still have some issues. Like in my mind, I'm like, I have to deal with.
Sure.
I think like the Discovery uniforms though fit quite well with like the Enterprise uniforms.
That's true. That's true. That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I wanted to ask you guys about the rendition of the Enterprise in this show. Was it consistent? Did it live up to your standards? But then also, if it does look like the OG, why doesn't it look like Disco? And then my third question is, why did Burnham be like, it's the Enterprise? Like, she was surprised that it was the Enterprise. Like, in her head, was the Enterprise missing or something? Or I don't know. I didn't understand that.
I'm going to leave that to you, Dan. I'm going to let you go first.
I was going to say the same thing to you.
No. I want to hear your opinion. I'm just yeah.
Like Brian Fuller, who worked on Star Trek Voyager, and went on to develop like Hannibal and stuff like that. You know, was gone on to be a showrunner himself and stuff like that. He conceived of Discovery as sorry, this isn't answering as such your question about the Enterprise, but it is on this episode, and it is about the design of Discovery, which was he had some really like wild ideas for the Klingons. He wanted to like have eyes in the back of their heads and stuff like that, which clearly they didn't go for. But he came up with the idea that he left actually, like he was involved in the conception of Discovery, but he left quite soon, like before it aired as a series. And he wanted there to be a story. Like his original idea for the series was that it would be an anthology series that it would follow, I think, a different ship and a different set of characters and be in a different time, like each season. He wanted Discovery to sneak behind Klingon lines, as it were, and be mistaken as a Klingon ship. So he designed Discovery so that it would be aesthetically, it could be mistaken as being a Klingon ship. So that's why it looks like really long. It's got these hugely long nacelles and stuff like that. So really, it's not. It's not your sort of ordinary like run-of-the-mill sort of Starfleet ship. So like the Enterprise, I would think is more so.
Got it. And then the Enterprise they showed in this episode, do you approve of the design of it? Was it close?
Yeah, it's fairly. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not like up to speed enough to know if they did a good job or not, but I was wondering if they fumbled that.
It's adapted a bit when you see strange, the series Strange New Worlds. It's adapted a little bit from the Enterprise in this episode.
Yeah.
Before the original series.
And then so for me, like it is the same ship that Kirk ends up taking over, right?
Yeah.
It's like literally the same exact ship.
Yeah. I not to get it too much into the weeds, but I mean there are.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah. No, I know, but I probably, so Dan, full disclosure, I probably give a pass a lot more to Strange New Worlds and the chances that they take, just because to me it fits the ethos a little bit more. I will answer your question in saying, I love the Strange New Worlds, this Enterprise that we see for a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
Is it like the exact carbon copy of the original? No. I mean, there are some differences, but it's still it's the Enterprise when you see it.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
You blink and you're, oh yeah, that's the Enterprise, right? Yeah. So I have no problem with it.
Yeah, I think like one of the biggest quants that has been for me, it's been like what they imagine the size of the Enterprise to be like, because both in this episode and it appears in the second season of Discovery. Sorry for spoilers.
No,
and
we think it's going to happen because they're, because they've already seen it.
And the Strange New Worlds is massively bigger than Kirk's Enterprise is supposed to be in the original series.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. Yeah.
Somehow it gets shrunk down.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. And then, so later on, it's okay if it spoils for me. Like, did they explain why Burnham is surprised that it is the Enterprise? Was it supposed to have been destroyed or missing, or do we know, or does it not matter? Do they explain that later? Because she's like, it's the Enterprise. Like, as if,
Yeah.
I thought that
Yeah.
thing was, I don't know. I don't know what they didn't say what her surprise was.
Yeah. See, to me, to me, that was always that. It's always like everybody does that. It's the Enterprise, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know, but who
Okay.
knows? Sorry,
Yeah,
Dan.
same.
Go ahead.
Oh, I agree with you. Like, yeah, same here. I have recently read all but one of the Discovery comics and found it really interesting. Like, there's one Discovery comic which is set just before Discovery leaves Earth in this episode.
Oh, interesting. I like that. Okay. Was there anything else with this episode that stuck out to you? I did one thing. We were running a little late. I meant to go take notes. I did enjoy the world building on Kronos with the religious function of the vents,
Oh, yeah.
and how they talked about how there was like a sect that they were like holy sites for them or something, but then that sect was overtaken and then they filled them up. I like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Probably getting the details wrong.
No. And that tracks, right, Dan? Because on Borath, the monks are, praying to this fire pit vent thing to see visions of Kahless. All their other like things, a lot of other Klingon things ceremonially. Yeah, it's always something really hot.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So I was like, yeah, that tracks. I was like, that's cool.
I thought it's cool as well. Like, they carried like the idea of the torchbearer from like the start of season 1 of Discovery.
Yeah. Totally.
Was the Kahless thing established before Disco?
Yes.
Okay.
Although it's interesting, small thing to hear them say Kalesh, but again, Empire, different dialects, all that kind of stuff. That's cool.
Kalesh versus
Kahless.
Okay.
Yeah, but again, small things.
Okay.
Yeah, like Kahless was established back in the original series, produced in the 1960s. But I think they talk about Molar, which is like part of the legend of Kahless. They talk about Molar in this episode, and like I think that was added in like the Next Generation.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
That's right.
that was the group that was previously like worshiping, and then those are the ones that were overthrown. Am I getting that right?
You're looking at the wrong Star Trek fan.
Okay. Okay.
Dan, I think he's asking you, not me. He should be asking you, not me.
Yeah, I didn't quite track like how Molar is used in this episode. Sorry, guys.
No, I think it was just
because they were
Ash
shrines.
Tyler.
The vents were shrines.
Yeah.
And they were talking about the history of them. And I was wondering if they just invented that for this show.
No, I don't think so.
Cool.
Well, I thought it's cool. Sorry, what?
I'm all about those connections that connect it to other things. I like stuff like that. So yeah.
Well, I really liked like the teaser, or it's also called a cold open, I think, of this episode. Like you see like the Earth, the space dock that I talked about earlier. You see like Kronos, zooming those shots at the very start. It establishes tensions between the Federation and the Klingon Empire, which you talked about, as well as between Michael Burnham and Murray Giorgio. Establishes that the Federation appointing a Terran to command Discovery indicates to the Federation's desperation. So like all of those things, quite quick succession. So I thought it was really quite an effective teaser or cold open.
Sure.
That's a really good. I did not think about that. But that's really, because the only thing that I thought of when we saw Kronos, I was like, oh, Coruscant, cool.
Also, like Emperor Giorgio says, we're not here for bread and circuses, and that references an episode from the original series.
Oh, that's You're right. That's true.
There was also, like the Ryan guy that Tilly meets.
Clint
Like,
Howard, Baylock.
yeah, Clint Howard. He's appeared like quite a few times and like in different Star Trek series and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think he was a Ferengi maybe in Enterprise.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
Yeah.
right. And then I think he was also in Next Gen, but I just don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember.
I think he was in the Deep Space Nine two-parter past tense.
Oh, yes, you're right. Yep, you're right. Yep.
Also, like to Burnham recalling the Klingon attack in Doctori Alpha and their plan for mutiny, it calls back to the Vulcan hello at the start of the series.
Yes.
I loved seeing like the dazzling destruction of Kronos. You see it in a simulation. I thought it was a great visual effect. So yeah, I thought it was interesting, like to bring up the sort of argument or debate or conflict between like principles versus survival and
Yes.
like which is more important. Then also I thought like Emperor Jojo mentions like the destruction of Kronos in the mirror universe. And I thought like that works quite well with mirror universe continuity that you see later in Deep Space Nine. Then also when they're saying like goodbye, basically you see like Laurel and Tyler, they're beamed away while they're walking by a Klingon transporter beam. And Spock, that happens to Spock in Star Trek IV: The Voyage Home. He's walking.
Oh, yeah, that's
by a
right.
Klingon transporter.
That's right. That's right. That was really cool. Yeah. I forgot to mention. Yeah, that's right. Yep. Yeah.
And my final note was really like the changed like the music over the end credits just for this episode.
Yep.
Yeah, that was another small thing I noticed. Was that a specific song, or do you think it was more just a tonal shift to try to?
Yeah, so that's the theme tune of the original series.
Yeah.
Oh,
because we see the Enterprise.
It was.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because we see the Enterprise.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love that. So then on that final note, Dan, we usually do a rating of the episode. So
and we both have different ratings. I give pips. He gives a letter grade. What would you give this episode? Make up a rating system on your
7 of 9.
7 of 9. I like the Star Trek reference too.
Nice. Yeah.
Okay.
I liked this episode a lot. I thought, like, especially Burnham's arc and the acting of that actress who plays Burnham,
Sonequa Martin Green.
Yeah, and I enjoyed that very much. I did think that this episode felt like maybe this is based on just my own, just watching it, not reading anything else or anything. It felt almost as if they expected the series to be canceled because they really they wrapped everything up. They did leave. Hey, here comes Enterprise. We're getting a new Vulcan captain. But it did feel like this huge conflict is resolved, and I wasn't used to that because Enterprise always ended on a cliffhanger for the season finale to set up the next season, like as if we just did something huge. Now we're going to set up something even huger.
Yeah. Okay.
And so like that part felt a little off to me. So I'm only going to give it like a solid B, like an 85% B. I don't know.
Close to 7 of 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give it an A. So I'm using. I have no idea how they do grades in Europe, but so maybe it's the same as here. But so yeah, 85%, 85 out of 100. Yeah. What about you, buddy?
I completely agree with you. I agree with I agree with you both. The one, and I'm gonna give this a Commanders a 3 pips out of 4.
Okay.
My only my only quibble about this, because we talked about it, I loved all of those things, the Burnham arc, all that stuff. The one thing that I do kind of wish they dragged on a little more, and this is just me, is the end, the Burnham, the Giorgio giving over the detonator so quickly.
Yeah.
And yes, they have a very deep and complex relationship from both universes between the two characters. It kind of felt like that it was rushed, and I was like, I could use an extra episode to finish this off.
Yeah, it wasn't the most Terran thing to do.
Yeah.
To kind of roll over. So
yeah,
quickly.
I thought that was resolved a little quickly in my mind. You know, just because of Philippa's, thirst for blood and, conquest and destruction and all that stuff. And then I wish we would have gotten more from Laurel, a little bit more, going to her and going, you can unite, you can be the torchbearer, you can lead the Klingon Empire. I know, I'm an old man on his rocking chair, and that I like slow Star Trek, but that's what it would have ended up being. But that's my only quibble, is that I think they rushed the ending. I think they could have drawn it out a little more.
Those are good points. That seemed like a huge roll of the dice to like give her the detonator and just kind of assume
right,
exactly.
Exactly.
Gone a million ways without a little more around it. So yeah, I hear you, man.
I think my biggest problems with the episode are to do with design. Because I mentioned like the hugeness of the Enterprise, but there's also like I read there's a comic all to do with the Klingons, basically, that's set just after like you have like at the start of Discovery, you've got like the Vulcan Hello and the Battle of Binary Stars of the first two episodes, and then it's set just after that. And like the Klingon High Council chamber that you see in this episode looks nothing like in the comic.
Yeah. That's interesting, because we would have never known that, and that's really interesting. In the comic, does it look more like the protocol high chamber that we've seen in other, like in?
It's similarly vast, like it is in this episode, but like there's no, like in this episode, seems like a gaping chasm between like where the speaker stands and who the clowns that she's speaking to. But in the comic it's basically like just on one level. I think at least there's not a huge hole like that.
I'm really glad you brought that up, because I, as a viewer, I wouldn't even know. That wouldn't even been my guess that was the chamber of the Klingon High Council. Like, no.
Yeah.
I'm like, that could have just been, to me, like a hidden base of like, where they all kind of meet or whatever. Thank you for bringing that up, because I was like, that didn't even cross my mind that was the Klingon, the chamber. Not even,
it seemed like a really primitive space. I definitely thought that. I was like, I don't know. It was like they would have had something more established. It seems like they're just in a cave somewhere.
That's cool. That's really cool, though. But no, thank you.
No problem.
Well, anything else with this episode, Dan, that you wanted to talk about?
I really liked like Tilly. I thought she was really used well. Particular scenes like when she gets high or when she first meets Emperor Joe. Some really funny scenes.
Yeah, I loved when she called Burnham and goes, "Okay, first thing, I'm really high, but there's a bomb. It's not a drone."
And she swears, doesn't she?
Yeah,
like,
she says the S word.
Yeah, she's like, "Oh, yeah, that's not a."
But at that point, again, they had showed, two streams of piss. So anything goes at that point. And then Giorgio's having a threesome with two Chronos.
I was like, okay, that tracks too.
So,
I thought
you're gonna conquer them, and then all right.
I thought even when she spits out the Gormagander,
Yeah.
that was pretty.
Yeah.
So remind me that Gormagander was the protected whale thing that they brought in that one time. That was kind of the Trojan horse for Dwight Schrute.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. For Harry Mudd.
Harry Mudd.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I thought so. I did think her reaction was funny. She like spits it.
Yeah. The space whale. I was like, oh, we're having another crossover from the Star Wars universe.
Oh man. Okay, cool. Well, and then sometimes we talk about random things at this point, but
Yeah, I don't.
We had an R.I.P. Kenneth Walker who played Cole.
Cole. Yeah.
Klingon?
Yeah. A Klingon.
Passed
Yeah.
away last week.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So rest in peace to him.
Yeah.
And I don't know. Sometimes we talk Star Wars, but we don't have to do that today.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any.
Well, Bad Batch is
yeah,
a new season.
Have you caught up with it though?
I've been playing it in the background. I haven't actually watched it, so I don't have any comments there.
Okay.
But there's potential that it's gonna explore more with cloning and stuff that ties into maybe somehow Palpatine returned.
Oh god.
I don't know.
Oh, right. In the lead up to Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
Rise of Skywalker. Yes. Oh, okay.
I checked out the first episode of Bad Batch quite recently. I really enjoyed that. And then someone posted about that on social media, and someone said they thought the story arc for the second season of Bad Batch isn't as strong as the first season. But it seems like fans are enjoying it in general.
Yeah, I think they've perfected the animated format that they started with Clone Wars and Rebels. It is getting better for sure.
Yeah.
I have little small gripes with it. I don't like how every time they do one of these, there's an annoying kid at the center, and this one has the annoying kid.
It's got to be a chosen one.
Yeah,
it's got to be a chosen one.
Yeah. It's just not for me. I'm more of an Andor fan. I don't know if you watched Andor.
Yes, basically I've watched anything live action, all of that. I've watched all.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic!
I'm in love with Andor. It's my favorite thing ever. So
Star Wars for adults. Not my words. Kellen Skarsgård. Not my word.
I enjoyed I really enjoyed Ashoka. I thought it was good. Then the multiverse idea. Well, it was sure interesting.
Yeah, I thought Ahsoka was great as well. Can't wait for more of that. So
I'm really looking forward to the next films. Basically, they've got one coming up to do with Rey, and then also one that I forgot what it's called.
The Acolyte.
The Acolyte.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
it's 100 years before the prequels or something like that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's really exciting that they're going to tackle that period. And that show's just around the corner. I think that's in July is when it's coming out.
Oh, cool.
So,
oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Oh cool.
Jason and I will definitely be watching that and talking about
that
every week.
Definitely.
So, I played a bit of the Old Republic, which is set way before, but that, back when there was Sith walking around and stuff like that, that stuff is really cool when you get into the.
Would you say that's really cool? Would you say you have to be a fan of Rogue One to enjoy Andor?
I say no.
Wow.
I don't. I don't think you need to watch Rogue One.
I don't think so either, because it's a prequel to Rogue One anyway.
Yeah.
And if Jason says no, because that's one of Jason's favorite movies.
It is my favorite Star Wars movie. Yeah. It topped Empire recently, or when it came out. But I don't think it does. Yeah, I don't think you do.
I don't think so. For me, I think it's better than Rogue One. I hated Tarkin in Rogue One, but
He just didn't like CGI.
Yeah.
The CGI, like, technology of the
Yeah.
time.
and Leia, and those are like they were so bad they shouldn't have included them. They should have just done something else, have a hologram or something. But I don't think you have to be way into Rogue One to get
No,
Andor.
no. Mm-mm.
And again, I think he perfected his style. Like the style is similar, but I think he like perfected it for the show.
Yeah.
So
You can tell that's Diego Luna, like being a producer of the show. Yeah, for sure.
Tony
Like,
Gilroy.
Yeah.
I agree with you, but I wasn't sure, like, like whether you'd be able to understand the show without having watched the movie. Regarding that sort of thing, like, personally, like, not having watched really much of the animated Star Wars productions, like, I'm not entirely sure. Like you see in the Solo movie, like you see the return of Darth Maul. Like, how does he manage to come back, like, after the Phantom Menace?
Right. Yeah. So if you do get into Rebels, they'll get into it.
Okay.
Not Clone Wars?
Well, I mean, we would have to spoil it for Dan.
Yeah, no, I know.
It could be Clone Wars. It could be Clone Wars.
No, I know. I know it's, but
he's definitely in Rebels.
yes.
I don't know if the origin is in Clone. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember now.
Yeah,
because they're kind of
yeah.
the same.
Well, so the sisters, the Night Sisters in Ahsoka, they're a big part of the animated stuff, and they're related to Darth Maul's comeback. And so if you like that part of it, yeah, you should definitely. It's a lot of work though. I mean, because those seasons are very many episodes, and there's a lot of them. And,
Yeah. It's like the
I've seen
proper 20 plus episodes of old school American series.
Yeah. The
Yeah,
first,
I realized like even the Bad Batch is quite a few episodes per season.
Yeah.
The first season of Clone Wars, I thought was subpar, but season 2 it actually starts to get pretty good. So if you can suffer through season 1 and then get into it, and if you're still into it at that point, then I'd say it's worth watching. So
I agree.
And like also like there seems like quite a few elements in the Ahsoka TV series that they've been taken from Rebels, like Thrawn.
Yeah. Yep. So okay. Well, we've been going for a while.
Yeah. Anything else, Dan?
I'd just like to say, like, this has been a great pleasure, and thank you so much for having me.
Us too. This has been great, man.
The honor was ours. Yeah. We're gonna have to do it again.
Great to speak with you.
Yeah. Thanks,
Thank
man.
you.
Have a good one. Everybody go check out Dan's work. Subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Spotify, follow Dan's channels on YouTube, and he's on Twitter as well. What's your Twitter handle?
Dan_Leckie.
Excellent.
L-E-C.
Yeah. Twitter's a great place for Trekkies to get connected to content coming out. So always recommend people follow us on there and follow others like Dan on there.
And we'll put Dan's information in the description box below.
For sure. Yeah. And cool. Well, we appreciate it. And thank you, everybody. Thanks, Dan. Thanks, Jason. And until next time, live long and prosper.
And may the force be with you.
See ya. Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan. Take care.
Bye, man.